chose me. I'm a champion, I need some trophies. I can draw the lane, I can shoot the three. I can run 100 yards, I can throw it deep. I ain't choose the game, gang chose me. I'm a champion, I need some trophies. I can draw the lane, I can shoot the three. I can run 100 yards, I can throw it.
Laurel?
Sorry, go ahead and host it.
How you doing, guys? And welcome to the Extra Point. Alongside with Lauro Antonio, my name is Ben Cruz. This is our end of the season recap. We also brought alongside Isaiah Leon. And how you guys doing tonight?
Doing great. I know Lauro is dealing with some technical issues right now, so hopefully we get that straightened
My headphones.
out.
Sorry, guys.
Oh, no worries. But yeah, it was a really fun football season. It's unfortunate that none of us three football teams were able to win the final prize at the end. But congratulations.
Anyways, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you. We got you.
Okay, so anyways, I'm Lauro. Welcome everybody to the Extra Point. We are going to put a bow on the 2022 season before we look ahead to what is at stake for the next couple of weeks with this NFL offseason. It's going to be a wild offseason with quarterbacks moving places and going from there. But first off, we are going to talk about our favorite team season recap to kind of put a bow onto the season. I'm going to go to each and both of you about questions about your teams, but Ben and I are going to start with the New England Patriots. So, Ben, I'll tell you, the New England Patriots did not make the playoffs. Mac Jones had a sophomore slump. He has been subject of trade rumors, but I'll tell you, I'm not really buying into those trade rumors of Mac Jones to the Raiders. Mac Jones is going to be our starting quarterback this next season, which I expect. But you talk about a year of ups and downs, bad play calling, and of course, Ben, the disaster of Matt Patricia and Joe Judge leading the offense, which wasn't good. But hallelujah that Patricia and Judge will not be a part of the offense going forward.
Well, overall, first of all, I'd just like to say, congratulations to Kansas City Chiefs. I know it feels like the Super Bowl, it's kind of been past us now. We're kind of now on to the full-on off season. We're watching like the NFL live, and they're kind of ready for the next step. So it's kind of that favorite time of year where it's kind of you have the little that little kind of part where you start having baseball coming on. You have the March Madness, all that fun stuff. Then you have free agency, then you have the draft. So, as they say, NFL never sleeps. But in terms of the overall team of the Pats, it was fairly disappointing in terms of the season as a whole. They made the playoffs the year before, but I feel like the coaching was the biggest problem kind of right before the season, and it kind of pretty much showed pretty much throughout the season of why we had the flaws that it happened with. I feel like this was a definition of a season of a one step up, one step back, one step up, one step back. And there was never like belief or you feel that they could go on a specific type of run. It was just pretty much, they had a lot of, a lot of their wins, Lauro and Isaiah, were against subpar quarterbacks, a lot that were mostly all backups, or they had potentially some guys on the other side hurt. And I think personally they competed hard. Their defense had a lot of bright spots, kind of similar to the year before, like last year. Obviously, Matthew Judon was a Pro Bowler this year. A fantastic year. Kyle Duggar continues to blossom. Josh Uche doing great. But the biggest thing that has been the biggest question for since post Brady has been the consistency of the offense and putting up points. And you really have to be able to put points up in today's day and age with the amount of elite quarterbacks that we see, especially in the AFC when you have to go against guys like Mahomes and Burrow and Allen. They have to find a way to consistently get more points offensively. And I think they could be a better team that way if they can score more offensively. They played a lot of great teams this year. They came up a little bit short. Of course, the Raiders game was probably the worst game this season. I mean, even to this day, I still process how in the world that ending happened. I know it felt like an eternity ago, but it's just the consistent stupidity of the way that this team pretty much brought in for a lot of this season. And it was pretty much, you kind of get what you kind of deserve. They do no plan, and they just decided to bring in Matt Patricia and Joe Judge because of familiarity. And I think personally it was not the right move at all for Bill Belichick type of team. But I think as of so far this offseason, I'm pretty hopeful, of course, bringing in an actual guy that could call plays that's been through the system, and Bill O'Brien. Mac Jones should be able to probably get a number one receiver. I'm very hopeful that they're going to try to get a guy, whether it's a Jerry Jeudy or a T. Higgins type, receiver that can really, really kind of take the defense apart, because they've really struggled with finding that next guy. Defenses all along have been like, okay, we'll stop the run, and that's kind of that, and make Mac Jones kind of throw a lot more. But I think if you add some guys on the outside, I think that, the defense will start to respect more of that, and then I'll start to open up stuff up as well, too. Another thing as well is the special teams was an absolute disappointment. I mean, I think they gave up 4 or 5 kickoff returns for touchdowns, especially one that was in 2 games. I mean, that was very unlike the Patriots. Just a lot of just dumb football. Yes, they had some good spurts, but all in all, I'm kind of glad they didn't make the playoffs, because I don't think that they deserved it. And I'm ready for this new change, and I'm really hopeful that they can make the playoffs this year, because I think Robert Kraft is starting to lose patience. And they have to start getting a little bit deeper into the runs. I know the AFC is getting a lot better with better, quarterbacks and stuff like that, but they got to show a lot better of a product of a overall team than last year, and I believe that's going to be the case. So until that time comes, of course, this year was a big disappointment, I guess you could say the least, for the Patriots.
I want to say here that the Mac Jones trade rumors that has been surfacing, Ben, I am not a fan of that. I have personally declined it just because I really think that Mac Jones is going to be our guy next season. I think he's facing a lot of pressure heading into year 3. So far, he's off to a great start this offseason. I don't expect him to be traded at all.
No, I mean, listen, he is absolutely the scapegoated part of this situation, right? He was with 2 guys, one that was calling offense plays, a defensive corner, another guy that was pretty much a special teams coach. I mean, that's not really a lot of Mac Jones's fault. Yes, he might have regressed a little bit. Yes, he might have had a little bit of, questionable, situations, maybe some bitching here that the coaches. But what is he supposed to do at the end of the day? Yes, I mean, I get it. You're the quarterback. You're supposed to kind of overcome these things. But essentially, when you have 2 guys that are out of their specific, situation, heck, it got even to a point where Bill Belichick had to start calling offense plays mid-part of the season because he really just did not trust these guys. Who is that to blame? It's more of ownership and Bill Belichick to bring these 2 guys in before the season, to make this stuff happen. And now you're in a situation where people are like, oh, Mac Jones, he's, of course, now a little bit closer to Bailey Zappi in terms of who's going to start, who's going to be that. He's just the scapegoat at this point in time. So, yes, Lauro, I think Mac Jones is going to be the starter. I think that this is a lot of clickbait specifically to kind of get the viewers and kind of get people rattled up. I know people are kind of worried that, I guess there's a showing of too much smoke, too much fire. But no, they brought Bill O'Brien in for a reason. If they didn't bring up Bill O'Brien in, yes, I could be a little bit more concerned. But what I can say on Isaiah and Lauro is this year Mac Jones has to have a good year. There's no excuses. This is a make or break type season. If I see a little bit more regression, he's a contract year next year. I sadly think that the Patriots will have to start kind of considering specifically on what's next because, yes, I don't think personally they want to go into the draft. I don't think that's the case. But I do think that if you bring some guys in offensively, bring some talent around receiver wise, you're add up the offensive line. You bring in Bill O'Brien, who's very familiar from the Alabama scheme, and you still regress. Yeah, now I'll start to kind of be a little bit more worried and concerned. But now I still think that he is the guy. I still think he is the guy for years to come. But what I do have to say is, like I did say, is I will pull the panic, button if things get really, really, really bad. That they really add pieces and talent around him and the coaching around him, because maybe he's just not that, and it's okay. But I do think that he's the guy at least for this year. Time will tell about the long-term future. Hopefully that's the case, but I do think that he got a really bad rap from the bad coaching he had this past year.
Well, you also have to talk about some another addition to the Patriots coaching staff. I mean, not only Bill O'Brien is new to the staff, he's back as our offensive coordinator. Ben, what is your thoughts on the Patriots bringing back a familiar face to coach the offensive line, and that is former New England Patriots player Adrian Klemm?
I absolutely love it. And I think with the Patriots, it's just unfortunate they really wasted a year of bringing guys in on the coaching staff that were out of position. Really, Mac Jones, typically for rookie quarterbacks, that second year is usually always the year that they get better. And in the second year with Mac Jones, he regressed because, he had some, things that happened. He took maybe a couple more sacks than he should have, but there's a lot of the coaching. Guys were out of position. He was, kind of ready to call, okay, it's about 10 seconds left on the clock. What am I going to do? There's no consistency plan, and that's a lot in terms of coaching. I think personally, Adrian Klemm now could be the offensive line coach. He can kind of figure that stuff out. Bill Belichick, I think, will focus on the defense and mostly all special teams, and Bill O'Brien will do all offense. Because you saw what happened last year. Guys, Belichick, Steve Belichick, all these guys that kind of be coached out of place, and you see what happens. It's a colossal mess. Now you have guys that are put into certain situations, and Laura and Isaiah, I think Isaiah, Laura, this is optimistic Patriot fan as it is. This is why I think the Patriots have a much better year this year because the coaching is in place. They should be able to have I think they're in the top 10 in cap space to be able to move around some offensive line, cut some guys with an offensive line that have a lot of potential, high cap and go from there. Because like I said, this is a big season for the Patriots because Mac Jones next year has a huge rookie. He's at the end of his contract or year contract.
Well, this is year 3. The year 3 is going to be a kind of a big type of year leap here, which I'm not hitting the panic button yet on Mac Jones. Right. I have a lot of faith in him.
Right. And I'm not saying I don't. But what I am going to say is this, is he's going to have all the coaching right at his disposal for this season. He, basically kind of, okay, we moved on from last year. We learned on from the mistakes. Now this is the time kind of for like year 2, but in year 3, right? You have all the guys there. Unfortunate, year 2 is years the past. But you bring guys in at the outside, maybe get a Jerry Jeudy type, T. Higgins type on the outside. I think Jacoby Myers probably will ask too much as number 1. He'll probably get overpaid. So I would love to have Myers back. We'll see about that. I think you keep Kendrick Bourne around. You have Devontae Parker. You have Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry. You have Bill O'Brien. You have Damien Harris to come back. You'll have Ramondre Stevenson. And then you have a very good defense. And then you'll have Adrian Klemm offensive line. They can help offensive line help. You have Bill O'Brien for the offensive coordinator situation. This should be a really good situation there for the season. And like I said, Laura, if things go really bad to Shane with Mac Jones and he regresses more and more and more this year and potentially next year, and I'll start to hit the panic button just a little bit because I'm just like, man, if he doesn't have all this situation, things just get worse, then I think you might have to go for a change. But like I said, as of right now, I'm not like a lot of these media potential, guys out there potentially like, oh, this is it. He had a bad rap in coaching. That's the biggest thing. Now let's go on to this season. He has it right out over pretty much right here, right at this point in time. Focus on it and, really hope for the best. That's all I can ask for.
Anyways, Ben, I agree with you. I don't think Jacoby Myers is going to be back. Damien Harris, I think he'll be back. Nelson Agholor, I'd like to move on from him because I just think that Nelson Agholor is kind of useless. I kind of think that the Patriots, they need to, if you look at it, Ben, I do think, however, that Tyquan Thornton is going to be a big part of this New England offense next year, which I have a ton of faith in. And I really think that Thornton is a guy that I do think that he's going to
he'll get better. He'll blossom in.
He's going to get better. He's going to blossom in this new Bill O'Brien offense. Kendrick Bourne took a step back. He's going to thrive in that Bill O'Brien offense. You're going to see a lot of 2 tight end sets with Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, and a guy who I think we need to move on from. I like Isaiah Wynn, but I think it's time to get younger at left tackle. I think his stay is he's overstayed his welcome. Trent Brown, I like. He has size. I like his size and all that, but I think it's also time to move on from him.
Yeah. I think, like I said, that's it, Laura. You know, you have 2 guys offensive line. You move on from those 2 guys. There are 2 in the worst. You know, penalties was one of the worst things the Patriots had last year, and those were because of 2 really main guys. There was Wynn and Brown. I hate calling players out, but they were beyond in terms of everything that they went for a 1st and 10. A 2nd and 3 or 2nd and 2, they get
too many false start penalties.
Way too many. Way too many.
Or holding penalties that they got.
For a lot of people have been saying, you know, look at the Patriots to get Isaiah. I don't know how you feel about this, but a lot of Patriot fans, a lot of Patriot media really want Mike McGlinchey from the 49ers to potentially help on that.
Take him, please. Take him. Take him.
But we have to get somebody, a couple of guys to beef up. I think personally, there's one guy from the Jaguars that's a free agent, and I believe his name is Jawaan Taylor. I really like his overall stock there, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Jags kept him. But
Jags should keep Jawaan Taylor. But how about an Alabama reunion with Mac Jones with Cam Robinson?
That could happen. I mean, I'll tell you about specifically the receiving position. Kind of this is what I want to happen. I want them to look at drafting a receiver potentially in the 2nd or 3rd round, because I think there's a lot of good offensive line, right? And I think that they should go 1st round offensive line. I think really that's kind of the case.
What are your thoughts on Cole Strange? I thought he had a nice first season.
I thought he had spurts. You know, I think early on the first half of the season, he played really, really well. And I think that in the second half, he kind of showed his rookie slump. But I do think there was a lot of good to come out of Cole Strange. I think he did a lot of really good things. You know, I think personally, he really wasn't the big issue. You have him, you have Onwenu, you have Andrews. And I think that you have 2 guys.
Yeah, David Andrews is my guy on the offensive line, one of the best centers in the league. And David Andrews, he missed some games because of injuries. I thought that losing him is such a big is a big blow. But David Andrews is a guy that really anchors the offensive line. Talk about the defense. I mean, the defense was great all year long, but Matthew Judon had another Pro Bowl season. Slate, can't wait to have him back for another year.
Yep.
I mean, Matthew Slater is a guy that I've always liked and who defines what it means to be a New England Patriot. Another guy I would want back is Devin McCourty. If he retires, I will be okay with it. He's had a great run with us, but I do think that getting younger at the safety position, I think would be beneficial if Devin McCourty retires. As much as I want him back, he's a guy that I think I would like back just because he knows how to lead the secondary, tell guys where to go on each certain spots on the back end of the defense. And then Lawrence Guy's a guy that could tell the front guys where to go when it comes to the front of the defense.
Right. I mean, I think the defense played a big role this year, you know, kind of like the last couple of years. But one thing about the Patriots defense that they have to get better as their linebackers. And I think that you got to go out and draft some guys with some speed, because they've been struggling a lot for years and years to come with mobile quarterbacks. I mean, they've gotten eaten alive by guys like Lamar Jackson, a little bit, I guess, Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Justin Fields this year. I mean, they got absolutely ran out of the the stadium against the Bears at their own place. It was embarrassing. I mean, Justin Fields is a great player, but it's just kind of one of those type of games where you're like, man, you wish you just had some fast on the outside. And I know a guy like Kyle Van Noy is a great guy. He's a free agent. Everybody like can bring him back. Of course, I'd bring him back. For a guy you potentially off, as a reserve type of player. But we need to get guys in the draft and kind of start building up specifically of what we want to do, right? A lot of these type of teams now, in the AFC are really starting to look at, I'm starting to see a lot of guys are younger, they're faster defensively, and I think personally with the Patriots defense, they have a lot of good players there that are young already. Guys like Kyle Duggar, Lawrence Guy is a very good player. Defensive line with Godshaw. One guy that actually I wouldn't hate to bring back, Loro, is Chase Winovich. Chase Winovich is actually a free agent from the Browns this year, and I don't think Chase Winovich is a bad guy on the edge. You bring him in with you still have Matt Judon, you still have Josh Uche. Another guy that I would love to see the Patriots try to get is Hargrave from the Eagles defensive line. The guy was an absolute menace this past year. But I think personally, and Isaiah, I don't know how you'd feel about this, but Loro, hear me out on this one. I think the Patriots should take a look at getting Jalen Ramsey from the Rams. I think personally that you add him on that cornerback situation. Jack Jones has had some, situations off the field. You bring a guy like Jalen Ramsey, he might not be the same guy he used to be. But I think personally that's a Bill Belichick type of move, kind of just in my head as of right now. If they can work something out, the Rams have a lot of guys they have to cut cap from. And you have Jalen Ramsey on one side, and you have Jalen Mills going to safety. I was reading this from actually somebody that I really admire from the Boston Football Journal and stuff like that. But you bring a guy like Jalen Ramsey and Laurel on that defense, I mean, man. And you get some guys on that defensive line, you add some draft guys like that. I mean, between adding the coach and offensively, you have some guys, and of course, my dream guy is T. Higgins, but I doubt that'll happen. It makes sense to retain him. But, you have a guy like that, on the outside that can really kind of break, defenses and kind of have defenses kind of shaking themselves because they've had a really hard time with that. Defensively against guys like Mac Jones, it's been too easy for a lot of defenses to disguise. But I would love to see potentially Jalen Ramsey become a New England Patriot if they got the chance to potentially make it happen.
Yeah. So, anyways, now we talk about. I think kicker's also a need here for the Patriots. I like Nick Folk to be back, but I would also like to get younger at that position too.
I'm not too worried about kicker. I think, Nick Folk's been very steady. I wouldn't be opposed to potentially signing a new punter, though, because I think our punting situation, I know Jake Bailey had a really good punting season a couple years ago, but I think that
and Pilardi took over when Jake Bailey got hurt.
Yeah, and he was okay. He wasn't anything great. I'm not obviously going to be like, go out and get a punter in the first round. No. But I do think that the Patriots should potentially look at some guy in the VA free agency at punter. I know that special teams, of course, is a huge part of Bill Belichick's scheme. And the special teams last year was actually really bad. It's pretty abysmal, I guess you can say the least. Yes, they had some moments. One guy, Loro, that I think that the Patriots should really look at, kind of going from offense and defensive scheme is Marcus Jones. I think Marcus Jones, when healthy, is the Patriots energizer like bunny. I mean, that guy is actually, you put him on one side. Imagine having Marcus Jones at cornerback 2 with Jack Jones as well there. And you have Jalen Ramsey on the other side. And then you put Marcus Jones kind of in your wildcat situation, potentially on offense. You bring a guy in on the outside. I mean, now you're cooking something with there because speed is huge now in this day and age. And I think the Patriots just have to really get more speed so they can be able to get points more consistently, offensively to keep up a lot of these high scoring type teams. And just you have to have that happen now.
Anyways, here, Ben, we have questions here before we get to Isaiah on his Niners here, and then Ishmael has a question for us. We're going to get to just a little bit here. Christy says there's a lot of questions on the Patriots, and this question, yes, Christy, that is for you and me. We'll answer this. Do you guys see the Patriots making any moves during the draft? I'll answer the first. I'll go first. Christy, I'm going to say I think we will make moves, but I just don't think that we will move up in the draft. Knowing Bill Belichick, he's going to move up in the draft if the price is right. if he doesn't want to move up or if he wants to move down for more draft picks, that's all he does. I am open to what Bill Belichick does. We have a first round pick at 14. I'm open to trading back. I'm also open to trading the pick if we have to, if it gets to more draft picks, but I'm open to trading down or trading up, but I could see us keeping our pick at 14 and using that pick on an offensive player. That's the question. That's to answer your question, Christy. Ben, you go next.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think that the Patriots are going to draft a guy either from Ohio State offensive line or Georgia Bulldogs, Isaiah's team. One guy to look out for is Broderick Jones. That guy's an absolute menace at that front offensive line. I'm not sure if Broderick Jones is in this year's class or not, though, but that's one guy that I would love them to take a look at. But Ohio State has a couple guys that are extremely massive that I would love to take a look at. So I think personally, Christy, that they're going to stay pat this year because I think the offensive line class is really deep and they can get some guys that could potentially be their starters like Cole Strange could be from this past year. And I mean, I'm really hesitant with Bill in terms of picking wide receivers in the first round, but I wouldn't be against it. I mean, I doubt it's going to be the case, but I think they're going to all offensive line. I don't think they're going to trade back like usual in the last couple of years. But yeah, it's a good question. I think they're going to stay pat and go all on.
Anyways, here we're going to move on to Isaiah's team. And Isaiah, the floor is yours now. So you talk about the 49ers here, and then you talk about going through so many quarterbacks due to injuries with Trey Lance. He started the season as the quarterback, and then he got hurt. Jimmy Garoppolo took over. He was playing pretty good until he got hurt. And then Brock Purdy had an almost improbable run, and then you had to go to Josh Johnson at quarterback here. But I'm going to tell you, Isaiah, I am a big believer still in Trey Lance. I still think he's your quarterback going forward because I really think that despite the injury, you're not going to trade a guy that you moved up in the draft to invest as your franchise quarterback. You're not going to do that. You're going to have faith in Trey Lance, which I do. Brock Purdy, I wasn't on that Brock Purdy hype, but Trey Lance, with the weapons that he has with McCaffrey, Ayuk, Samuel, Kittle, and a good offensive line there and a good defense too, I think the Niners next year, to me, they're still going to be a great team in the NFC along with Philly and Dallas in this wide open NFC, but Philly and San Fran are pretty much your top two teams in the NFC, Isaiah. And then you talk about your playoff run. On your playoff run, you beat Seattle, you beat Dallas.
Make it quick, Lauro. It's still stinging. Make it quick. It's still stinging.
And then they lost to Philadelphia in the NFC Championship game. McCaffrey, I think, is going to be a great addition. You're going to have a full year with him. I think that's going to be really good for the Niners. And I think the Niners are going to be a team that are still going to be one of the best teams in the NFC. Isaiah, go ahead.
You know, for me, for the Niners, this was probably one of the most fun that I've had watching the 49ers not because of the injuries, but because of just how much of a roller coaster this season was. You know, you start off with the expectations that Trey Lance had, and then he stinks up the bed against the Bears, and then after that, it was kind of like, okay, you know, is this kind of like a rebuilding year for the Niners? And then, unfortunately, Trey Lance breaks his leg in the second game of the season, and then Jimmy Garoppolo comes in, and then he balls out in the 8 games that he played, and everybody was like, oh, my gosh, this might be deja vu. Jimmy Garoppolo is playing himself into a great contract. He's maybe playing himself into being the Niners' future quarterback, and then, you know, he unfortunately gets hurt, And then Brock Purdy, whom I've been high on for like the past couple of years, ever since he was in college. I thought this kid could play. I don't know why he went all the way down to the last pick of the draft. But he comes in and he shows out, and he was on an improbable run, like you said, Loro. And, he was looking like the next Tom Brady out there. I mean, he was just putting up not godly numbers, but he was winning games. The team looked better with him on the football field. The team looked like they were more connected. And they didn't really they didn't skip a beat. In fact, they got better with him, because when Jimmy Garoppolo was there, they were averaging over just 23 points a game. But when Brock Purdy came in, they were averaging like 35 points a game. So it was just a massive, massive leap for this team. And then unfortunately, like what happened in the NFC Championship. So I don't really know what the Niners' future holds at quarterback. There were news today that unfortunately Brock Purdy's surgery got delayed, even though Tom Pelissero of NFL Network says that that's not really going to affect anything because he's still expected to be ready for training camp. It really depends on two things. I think the Niners' future depends on two things. It depends on how Brock Purdy's elbow heals, because that injury is like a pitcher, in baseball tearing his UCL. If you can have like the limited surgery all you want, or you can try to put off the surgery all you want, but that ligament in your elbow is torn. And it's not as bad as baseball, but it's still bad because a quarterback has to throw the football. Brock Purdy's not like a cornerback, or he's not like a running back who just runs the football or tries to bat the ball away. He actually has to throw the football. So, that is going to be the biggest question, is how does his elbow heal and if his arm can get back to full strength. And then the second thing that really is the thing that is the biggest question of the Niners offseason is, does Trey Lance have his athletic abilities back? Because let's face it, Trey Lance is not that good of a passer. He's an extremely talented and gifted runner. And the injury that he suffered was extremely gruesome. And a lot of quarterbacks, and a lot of these mobile quarterbacks, when they break their leg or they tear their ACL or they hurt their ankle, they suffer some gruesome looking leg injury. It saps them of their athletic abilities. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo was the same thing. Before, he was like Brock Purdy. He was running around, throwing the football. But then after the ACL, he just stood in the pocket and looked like a statue out there. So it really depends, because if Lance doesn't have that athletic ability and he's forced to just be a pocket passer, then there's going to be a lot of big issues in San Francisco. And the same goes for Purdy's elbow, that there's going to be a lot of issues there if he's not back to full strength. So the quarterback concern is definitely a big one for the Niners. But I think overall, when it comes to the season, it was a great season. I think Kyle Shanahan had his best coaching job of his career. I mean, to go through three quarterbacks and to still get the number 2 seed in the NFC, to win the division, and to go to the NFC Championship game, that just speaks to how great of a job that he did coaching the team. The offense, the running back McCaffrey, him coming in late in the season really helped the 49ers rushing attack get going before McCaffrey came in. The rushing attack was kind of stagnant. Debo couldn't get going. Elijah Mitchell couldn't get going, and he was always hurt. So CMC really helped get that rushing attack unit going. And then the wide receivers, Debo had an okay year, not that great of a year. Brandon Ayuk was tremendous this year. George Kittle came on strong late. I think the offense, they're going to be fine. They have a lot of great pieces there, but I do want to see the Niners add another difference maker receiver, a guy that can run great routes and go up and catch the football, because they have guys that can break open in space. They have guys that are great, after the catch, but they don't have that Anquan Bowden big physical receiver whom, when the coverage gets tight, you could just throw it up and he'll find a way to go get it. So I really want to see the Niners do that. And then I also want to see them upgrade their offensive line. Mike McGlinchey, I know Ben mentioned him earlier in the show, and that's why I was telling Ben's Patriots to go ahead and take him, because I'm telling you, a Barbie doll could honestly beat him when it comes to getting to the quarterback. This guy was so awful last season. This guy, he was so bad that if you watched him on the field, there were two outcomes to any time Mike McGlinchey blocked a defensive lineman. It was either he would allow a sack and he would get completely destroyed, or he would get destroyed and he would hold the guy and he would get a penalty, whether it was holding or hands to the face, whatever, he would get a penalty. Like, it was always those two outcomes with him. It was never, oh, great job, Mike, you did a great job blocking that defender. It was always those two outcomes. So I honestly don't want McGlinchey back. I think the Niners can do way better at right tackle. They do have the center. He's a free agent. But I think overall you need to beef up that offensive line, because as Christy knows from the Cowboys, if you don't have a good offensive line, you're not going to do anything, no matter how great pieces you have as wide receivers, running backs, et cetera, et cetera. You need to have a good offensive line. So I think I want the Niners to focus on that, and also get another edge rusher outside of Bosa, because that defensive line really lacked in the playoffs when Bosa was getting double teamed and triple teamed, and guys like Armstead and Kinlaw and Drake Jackson, they weren't stepping up whatsoever. And you saw in that NFC Championship game that they did not get any pressure on Jalen Hurts, because Bosa was getting doubled and triple teamed and the other guys just couldn't do anything. So I think overall it was a great season. It sucks that it ended the way it did, but I do think that you guys talked about Mac Jones being under a lot of pressure, and this is also an answer to Ishmael's question. Is I think out of these three, the quarterback that's under the most pressure is Trey Lance, because you sat under Jimmy G for the first year, okay? That was your developmental year. This year, this was supposed to be your year. Unfortunately, you got hurt, but you also, when you played, you did not look good at all. So this is your year, because Brock Purdy's going to most likely be out for a good portion of training camp. You're going to have all the reps in the spring. You're going to have all the reps in the summer. You're going to have all the reps most likely at the start of training camp. Like, you need to prove why the Niners invested so much in you. And if you don't, they have a guy in Brock Purdy who's just sitting there in the back waiting to take your spot. And if you don't perform, I guarantee you Kyle Shanahan, who looked so much better as a play caller, and the Niners offense looks so much better with Brock Purdy, he's going to not hesitate and go to Brock Purdy. So for me, I think Trey Lance is under enormous amount of pressure. And if he doesn't perform this year, I think the Niners, I could see the Niners cutting bait, because they know what they have in Purdy, and Brock Purdy played really good football in the second half.
Anyways, here now we want to say hello to Christy here. Christy, how's it going? Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And we'll get to your Cowboys in just a little bit here. Okay. For me, answering Ishmael's question, I think who is heading the most pressure into year 3, I think it's Justin Fields. Mac Jones, not so much. Trey Lance, for sure. But would I want to put in Zach Wilson in there too? Probably not. No. I think Zach Wilson is probably –
he's a lost cause.
Yep.
So that's kind of my question here. So, Ben, answering Ishmael's question here, who do you think is under the most pressure as they head into year 3?
Well, first of all, I'd like to welcome Christy. It's been a while since I've seen you, so hello.
Hi.
My overall, actually, Laurel, I think it's going to be, I'd say Mac Jones. And I think personally it's because not only is my quarterback, but I think, a lot of people are kind of ready to kind of see what he has in store with a really good offensive coordinator and Bill O'Brien. I think that, we showed the regression from last year, and I think that, he got a bad rap with coaching. But I think personally, if things go worse with better coaching and kind of around him and the talent around him, I think personally, things could get really ugly potentially for next season. I think you can already see what you have in Justin Fields. I think he's going to be the guy for the long term. And I think with Trey Lance, I think personally he's a top 5 pick. Personally, I think that they're hopeful that he's going to, play well enough to, get up to that draft stock. I think just personally he's had a lot of injury, tough luck. So when he plays, I think he's going to be a pretty good quarterback. But I don't think anybody knows really what Mac Jones is yet. I don't think personally between the first year, yeah, he had some moments. The second year, he just was regressing with bad coaching. The third year now, it's like, okay, now you have the real good coaching, potentially with the really good weapons kind of around the add some pieces. I think now you're under the most pressure to perform at your highest. So you kind of, the coaching can kind of, do its thing and, for the team to know that he's the long-term answer. Because if he's not the long-term answer, then the pressure goes on to next year for his last potential year under his contract. And then, things can get kind of ugly from there. So I think it's going to be Mac Jones.
Anyways, here now we'll go to Christy here. Christy, want to ask you, what was your overall thoughts on the Dallas Cowboys 2022 season? I mean, you talk about a great regular season. You beat Tom Brady and the Bucs in the wild card game, which basically ended his career. And then you lost to San Francisco, and you basically got Stephen Aid every time the Cowboys lose. What's your thoughts on this Cowboys team, and what do you think needs to happen heading into next season? Give us your thoughts on why the Cowboys fired Kellen Moore as offensive coordinator, which I thought was a bad move. I thought that he was scapegoated, and Mike McCarthy now will have responsibility to call the offense.
Well, on the Kellen Moore issue, I think he was fired because his offensive play calling just became way too predictable. It was way too easy to figure out. And we do have an offensive coordinator, Brian Schottenheimer, but I think that's just in name only because, like you said, Mike McCarthy's going to take on the play calling responsibilities. The season overall was interesting. I mean, we lost Dak in the first game against the Bucs, but Cooper Rush came in, and I think he did a really nice job. He kept the season alive until Dak came back. But I think what the Cowboys need, since we traded Amari Cooper in the offseason, we need to get a wide receiver that can help take some of the pressure off of CeeDee Lamb because, even though he did well, I don't honestly think he was ready to be the number one wide receiver on the team. I really don't. Zeke, disappointing. I know he said he'll take a pay cut. He'll come back and even take a pay cut, but I don't even think that's enough, to be honest.
Well,
I don't think that's enough. And the O-line, obviously, I mean, Isaiah mentioned San Francisco's O-line needs some work. Ours does too, because, we weren't doing great on blocking and Dak was getting sacked and all that other stuff. And defensively, we're doing good on defense. We just need a few more extra pieces put in there. But overall, not bad, but I would say they do need to get better in a lot of areas.
So anyways, to ask you here, do you think Mike McCarthy's on the hot seat?
Yes, I do. Because if he doesn't do a good job being the coach and doing that offensive play calling, I think he's out after this upcoming NFL season. I don't think he's going to make it to 2024, to be honest.
Yeah, we'll have to see here because now Sean Payton, who was a one-time Cowboy coach, is now the head coach of the Denver Broncos, who I think is going to do wonders for that team.
I don't know.
Want to ask you here. So are you concerned at all about Mike McCarthy calling plays? Do you think he can do a good job calling the plays or no?
I think he can, but I think it's a lot of responsibility on him because he's got so much going on anyway. And so I don't know how well he can really do calling the plays, especially when, like I said, we have Brian Schottenheimer, but he's offensive coordinator in name only. And that's about it.
I was going to ask you, do you think Tony Pollard is going to stay?
That's a good question. He did get injured in the divisional playoff game against the Niners, so I don't really know. I would like for him to stay. That's just me personally. I don't really know. It's his decision whether he wants to stay or not.
Anyways, here we are now going to get to the good stuff here as we are now going to predict who is going to go where here in free agency. So I'm going to start with our first name here on our franchise tag game is Lamar Jackson. I think he is going to get a franchise tag. I think it's going to be non-exclusive. And I do think he's going to get traded to the Atlanta Falcons for a boatload of first-round picks that the Ravens will get. But I think that Todd Monken's now the new offensive coordinator in Baltimore. I don't think Lamar Jackson's a fit for that system. But Isaiah knows Monken well from Georgia because Monken's system is based on the pass, doesn't like to run the football too much. That's why I think Lamar Jackson should go to a team that is going to be based on the system that he fits. I think Atlanta is going to be a great fit for Lamar Jackson because he's going to thrive under the Arthur Smith-led offense. I think that the Falcons will utilize his offensive skills, and that offensive coaching staff will help him. And I think Arthur Smith will do a good job calling plays for him. Isaiah, you're next here. Lamar Jackson, I think, gets tagged, but I do think he's going to get traded.
You guys want an explosive hot take right now? And I think I said this on previous shows that we did. And Ben, I don't know if you were on there, but I think I said this on Sports Weekly a couple weeks ago. Lamar Jackson is not going to be the starting quarterback come opening day 2023 for the Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens starting quarterback next season will be Stetson Bennett. Because when you think about the Todd Monken hire and you think about what Todd Monken likes to do and what he doesn't like to do, Todd Monken's scheme is all about the pass. It's a pass-happy scheme. When he was with Tampa Bay, it was kind of like the Bucs scheme where it was like a air raid and no risk it, no biscuit mixed together. It was kind of like that type of a scheme. They did run the football, but it was not like that much of a running game. It was more of a pass type of an offense. So when you think about this hire, when they first made it, I was confused because I was like, Lamar Jackson is an extremely gifted and talented runner, but his biggest weakness is he's not that great of a passer. And when you think about Todd Monken, tremendous offensive coordinator, great offensive mind, but his offense is predicated on the pass. It's not predicated on the run. So you're basically in Monken, you have a guy in Monken whose biggest strength is Lamar's weakness. So it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's like fire and ice together. And when you think about what happened afterwards, the reports that were trickling in, there were reports from Jonathan Jones of CBS Sports, whom I trust a lot, that Lamar's comments and his thoughts weren't really weighed in to the hire of Todd Monken. The Ravens didn't really consider Lamar's thoughts when they were making this hire of Todd Monken. So I think that Stetson Bennett's going to be the quarterback of the Ravens. It makes too much sense for it not to happen. Stetson played under Todd Monken for a couple of years at Georgia. They won back-to-back national titles there. And Todd Monken elevated Stetson Bennett from a guy that was pretty much a bum to a guy that is now a two-time national champion and a guy that was a finalist for the Heisman this past season. So I think that Lamar is going to be franchise tagged, but I think he's going to be traded. I said the Falcons are a team that I think.
We see Atlanta because I really think that if you look at it, do I think that if Lamar Jackson's a Falcon, could it elevate the Falcons to division champs? Maybe, but I think it could, but I still like Carolina to win the division because of Frank Reich.
Well, if Lamar goes to the Falcons, right, I think he instantly becomes the best quarterback in that division. And, to have a great quarterback, that's already taking a step up in winning that division. But I also got another idea for you guys. Don't rule this out, because we've seen a lot of crazy trades happen in the NFL recently. Don't rule out Lamar Jackson getting traded to the Green Bay Packers for Aaron Rodgers, because Monken's scheme is pass-happy scheme. Aaron Rodgers is a tremendous passing quarterback. Green Bay wants to get younger at quarterback. I know they have Jordan Love there, but Lamar Jackson, if he goes to Green Bay, maybe a one-for-one quarterback swap, don't rule that out.
That's probably there. But Ben, what is the prediction for Lamar Jackson?
I have him on the franchise tag as well. And personally, I think that he's going to hold out for a long term contract, but I don't think that he feels that he is getting the respect that he wants. I put it on a kick in with Cruz in terms of my kind of overall predictions of where guys are each going to go. And I had Lamar Jackson staying, but after kind of considering it and thinking of the last couple of days and up to a week, I'm seeing what the quarterback market already looks like. And guys already kind of like Daniel Jones, there's already reports that he might be getting paid more than he should be getting paid for, which makes me to think, guys like a guy like Lamar Jackson's caliber, he's going to want to get fully guaranteed personally. I don't know if I feel like the Ravens would have kind of something already ready to go kind of leaked out at this point in time. And there's really been not a lot. There's actually been more of where reports of guys, they've been a part on the talks and stuff like that. And yes, getting tagged is one thing, sticking around. But I think personally, I think they're going the Falcons as well too. I think he's going to get a franchise tag. He's going to finally, make his demands of getting traded. And I think that the best team for him to go to is the Falcons. They have the NFC South is going to be really wide open. No more Tom Brady there anymore for that division. So, you can go in a new change of scenery with a good complement of weapons of Drake London there, or Cordell Patterson, Kyle Pitts. And personally, I remember J.K. Dobbins had a lot of displeasure with the Ravens last season after the year was ending. So, I don't know how much really has been kind of changed in terms of fruition. And I think Tom Monken, he said some stuff about Lamar today in terms of how he wants to become a better passer. But I think personally I think it's kind of ran its course there. I think personally Lamar Jackson is now going to be done in Baltimore. And I think that they're going to try to go more of, I agree with Isaiah, more of a, nothing to take away from Lamar Jackson, but I think they're going to be more a pocket passer. And I think Lamar Jackson is going to be better serviced for a mobile quarterback to role like a team like Atlanta. So I'm going to go tag and trade.
Also, we're going to talk about Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. I don't know if you can have two franchise tags here. I kind of think if I want to predict, I predict the Giants should tag Daniel Jones so that the Giants have more time to extend Saquon Barkley, because I really think that the Giants would like to keep both of them in the Big Apple, which I think they will. And knowing Brian Daboll, he would like to have them back. Isaiah, what do you do with both Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley? Do you tag one of them so that the other gets the long-term extension? I go Daniel Jones, the franchise tag, and then Saquon Barkley as the guy that gets the long-term contract.
To be honest, if I'm the New York Giants, if I'm advising Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen, I would tag Saquon Barkley and I would let Daniel Jones walk, because I think that for the Giants, their offense is predicated on a run-heavy attack, and Saquon's more important than to the team than Daniel Jones. I think if you could get another quarterback, whether it's in the draft or whether it's in free agency, I think that you could plug him in, and he's going to do about the same that Daniel Jones did, and the offense will operate pretty much the same. I think that paying Daniel Jones $45 million per year is absolutely bonkers. And I think that whoever does that, if they do that, then then Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen, they need to be drug tested immediately, because you give Daniel Jones $45+ million a year, like that is severely going to handcuff you. Daniel Jones, I like the guy. He is not worth $45+ million. He's more. I think you pay him like the franchise tag, $32 million. That's fine, because that's the going rate for quarterback nowadays. But $45+ million, that's like Patrick Mahomes territory. That's like Lamar territory. That's like Joe Burrow's territory. And Daniel Jones is nowhere near that. And I think that for the Giants, they're better off tagging Saquon, because Saquon's more important than to the team, and working out a long-term deal with Daniel Jones. But if Danny Dimes doesn't want it, let him walk. Go get maybe like a Derek Carr. Go get, you could get someone in the draft, because we know Brian Daboll is a tremendous developer of quarterbacks, you could maybe get like maybe a Max Duggan from TCU or someone like that you can plug in. He'll be on the cheap. You can reinvest some of the money that you save moving on from Daniel Jones to addressing some of your needs like offensive line, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's the best course of action for the Giants. So I think if I have to predict it right now, since we're predicting stuff, I think the Giants tag Saquon. And I think that Daniel Jones either will get a multi-year extension, but it'll be cheaper, or the Giants will let him walk.
What about you, Ben? What do you do with both Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley? Who do you choose the franchise tag on?
Well, I'd say hear me out on this, and hear me out on this. I think personally, it's going to be the opposite. I think that Diana Rossini was saying today via NFL Live that the Giants really, really like Daniel Jones, and they view him as a long-term. So I think that I view Diana as a really good source as of right now because she's been kind of in the circles, especially now with the Aaron Rodgers situation right now. And I think personally, as of right now, if you look at between both teams, between both players, Saquon has more of a market outside of the Giants personally. And I think personally, as of right now, you want to hear a hot take? I'm going to have Daniel Jones signing long term with the Giants, and I think Saquon's going to get a tag and trade. He's going to walk. I think that the team to watch out for here, two teams, is the Chicago Bears because the Bears have a lot of cap, and the Buffalo Bills. I think if you put Saquon Barkley in that offensive running game with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and all those guys, that offense would be absolutely just unstoppable. I think personally that would be because the Buffalo Bills have been struggling for a long period of time to get a running game. They've been a really good job passing the football for years and years and years, but they need to get that really good running back, really good running game. And I think you put Saquon Barkley there in that offense where you could be coming from, a Brian Daboll-esque with Ken Dorsey kind of right on over. I would not be opposed to that, I think, for the Giants. Yes, it'll be a tough kind of thing to move on from, but I think that if you had to put one at the tag, I think for me personally, I think they should have Saquon to be the long term, but I think that they view Daniel Jones to be the long term, so I think that they're going to have Daniel Jones have a long term extension, and I think that Saquon Barkley will probably get tagged, but I think that he's going to need to get the exclusive one, so teams will be able to potentially look at for a potential trade, and I think that you can get a potential first rounder from a guy like Saquon Barkley, and I think two teams to watch out for the Bears and for the Bills.
Josh Jacobs has wanted to remain a Raider, which I think he will. Josh Jacobs, I think he stays with the Raiders, and I think he's going to get the franchise tag. What about you, Isaiah?
I agree with you, Laurel. I think that Josh Jacobs is just too essential to the Raiders for the Raiders to let him go. Because your next season, you're most likely, if you don't get Aaron Rodgers or Lamar or a big time veteran free agent quarterback, you're going to be giving the reins to a young rookie. So, and the best thing to transition the rookie in softly is having a great running game and a guy that you can depend on to run the football, Josh Jacobs, so they don't have to do too much. And I think that that's what Josh McDaniels and the Raiders are going to do. Jacobs was explosive in McDaniels' scheme this past season. He was electrifying. He looked like the Josh Jacobs from the last couple of seasons, which was a fantastic sign to see. So I think Jacobs is too important to the Raiders, especially to their new quarterback, whom most likely will be a rookie. And I think that for Jacobs, him staying with the Raiders, I think it's the best decision for him as well.
What about you, Ben? Where do you have Josh Jacobs getting the franchise tag?
Yeah, I do. I think that he is really valuable to the Raiders specifically, but I do think that there will be suitors out there for his services. And I think one team to watch out for his services, if they do, obviously I don't think they're going to keep him, but watch out for the Miami Dolphins. Potentially look at a guy like Josh Jacobs. I think that the Dolphins really need help in the ground game, and I think that he would fit in perfectly with that team. But I do think that he's going to get the franchise tag. especially now with Derek Carr being on the move. I think that they want to keep some of their main guys on their weapons for the next quarterback that'll come in, whether it's Jimmy G or Aaron Rodgers or someone else. And I think that Josh Jacobs will be a part of their team for next year.
Now we talk about Tony Pollard. We stay in the running back franchise tag game here. I predict he's going to get franchise tagged, and I do think he'll remain a Cowboy. What about you, Isaiah?
I don't think he's going to get franchise tagged. I think that they're going to be able to work out a long-term contract that will keep him in Dallas. I think his value actually took a dive because with that injury, that gruesome, like fractured fibula injury that he suffered, he most likely won't be back for the start of the season. And I think that's going to hurt his value because you're not going to pay a lot of money to a guy who is not going to be there to start the season because he's injured. So I believe that if Pollard didn't fracture his fibula against the Niners, I think it would have been a whole different story. But I think that he's not going to have as much suitors as he would like and he thinks because of that injury. So I think for him and Dallas, both Dallas and Pollard, I think they are both better off suited with each other. And I think that they're going to end up working a new long-term extension that keeps him in Dallas, but it's going to be for like less money than the franchise tag.
And then I also think Dalton Schultz will be a guy that won't get the tag too, so we'll have to predict him as well when it comes to free agents. What about you, Ben? What about Tony Pollard?
I agree. I think he's going to stay in Dallas, and they'll have him for a long-term deal. I think he's the most important offensive player outside of CeeDee Lamb on the offense. If you obviously take away from Lamb and Pollard, you saw in terms of how big that Pollard injury was in that last year's playoff game. And I think personally, if Pollard continued to potentially play, the game could have been a little bit differently because of how big and vital he is to Dak in that offense. I do think they're going to find a long-term deal for him. And I think Dalton Schultz will have a bigger market elsewhere. So they're going to keep Pollard and sign him to a long-term deal, like Isaiah mentioned as well.
Now we will talk about our last franchise tag candidate before we move on to our free agency game. That's Geno Smith. I predict he stays in Seattle via the franchise tag. What about you, Isaiah?
I predict he'll stay in Seattle via the franchise tag because I think that right now for the Seahawks, they do have a top pick in next year's or this year's upcoming draft. But when you talk about a rookie, I don't think Pete Carroll wants to see a rookie start next season. I think he wants to see a guy in Geno Smith to be the bridge quarterback, and then the rookie comes in later on, whether it's midseason or whether it's the season afterwards, to come in and start for them. I think that that's the plan the Seahawks want. The Seahawks will be fools not to pick like Will Levis or one of the top talented quarterbacks on this year's draft. And I think that they will, but I think they want to see him develop and sit on the bench right now before he jumps in and get thrown into the wolves.
What about you, Ben? Where do you think? Do you think Geno Smith gets franchise tagged?
I do, and I think that the Seahawks are going to give him add a contract to that. I think they're going to give him about a 2 to 3 year type deal. I think that Pete Carroll really liked what Geno Smith brought to the Seattle Seahawks, for his first season under them. For a lot of teams that didn't think that he had much left, and Seattle brought him under his wing after the long-term, time with Russell Wilson there, and he did a really good job, with that offense, with DK and Tyler Lockett and Kenneth Walker and others. And I think personally that, they really like him there, and I think he's going to get a deal where he'll be there for the next couple seasons.
Next up, we are going to talk about, in our next segment, is our free agent / trade game here. We're going to start with the quarterback position on who gets traded where. And my first name on that list is Aaron Rodgers. I think the Green Bay Packers trade Aaron Rodgers to the New York Jets for a couple of first-round picks and then a late first-round pick. And then I think you're going to see the Jordan Love era begin in Green Bay next season. And we're going to see Aaron Rodgers wear number 12 in the Big Apple. And I think Joe Namath is going to unretire his number 12 and give his permission for Aaron Rodgers to wear number 12. What about you, Isaiah? Where do you have Mr. Rodgers going to next year?
I agree with you, Loro. Aaron Rodgers will be a New York Jet next season. And the reason why is because the Jets are desperate, and desperate teams go out there and swing for the fences. You talk about Woody Johnson. He's one of the most impatient owners in the NFL. He's a guy that wants to win now. He wants those shiny toys. And Aaron Rodgers is a shiny, shiny toy. And Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas, they both know that, their jobs may be on the line with an impatient owner in a Woody Johnson. So if they don't make the playoffs, they're probably going to be fired. So they need to make a splash. They need to go out there and get the quarterback position right. Aaron Rodgers is available. I think the Jets are going to be desperate enough to get him. Woody Johnson wants him. He loves the shiny toys. He's going to give up the farm to go get Aaron Rodgers because he's desperate. And I think, to be honest, Green Bay wants to move on because they know that Jordan Love is ready. He showed against the Eagles that he was ready, and he showed how good of a quarterback that he can be. So I think for Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay, both parties know they want to move on. It's just that they don't want to say it. I think the Jets, however, are going to be very desperate, and they're going to get suckered into trading like 3-4 first round picks to go get Aaron Rodgers.
Where do you think Aaron Rodgers lands with Ben?
I think he's going to go to Vegas. I think that he's going to go to the West Coast to be a part with his old friend Davante Adams. I understand that the Jets, I just think that they're going to really swing and miss on this one, as aggressive as they're going to be. And with the reports out with Derek Carr visiting this, I don't want to give away Derek Carr where I think he's going to go. But I think personally that the Jets are going to be very impatient to potentially try to see in terms of when, Aaron Rodgers is going to come out of his so-called, shadow or whatever. And I think that the Jets are going to get impatient. And I think that the Raiders are going to pounce. They're going to pounce in this one. And after potentially of Tom Brady potentially taking a look at I think that, yes, you can go after potentially, I was saying last week, potentially bring in Jimmy Garoppolo as an old friend, but I think they're going to go higher. I think they're going to try to go higher and try to be in contention with these other teams in the AFC West. And I'm going to go, I think Aaron Rodgers with Davante Adams reunitement. You have Hunter Renfrow there. You have Josh Jacobs. So I think that the Vegas Raiders and Aaron Rodgers are going to be a perfect fit, for his next team.
I mean, we'll see about that. But next up, we're going to talk about Derek Carr. For me, I have Aaron Rodgers getting traded to the New York Jets. I have Derek Carr reuniting with Dennis Allen and the New Orleans Saints. I think the Saints are a team that could still keep up, could still be competitive in this wide open NFC South. But I think Derek Carr will stabilize the quarterback position, and he's familiar with the philosophies that Dennis Allen brings on the offensive side of the ball. Ben, where do you have Derek Carr going to? I have him going to the Crescent City.
Yeah, I have Derek Carr. My original place I thought was going to be the Jets. The Saints or the Panthers, but I have him going to the Jets. I think that the Jets really are going to be desperate enough that they're going to miss out on Aaron Rodgers, but they really, really like what Derek Carr can bring. Heck, they even were saying that he could potentially be looked at as potential first ballot Hall of Famer. I think that's absolutely, idiotic to think of, but I think that the Jets are going to do. I think Robert Saleh and Derek Carr are going to come together and work something out. I understand that Derek Carr is not the best in bad weather, and I feel that the AFC East presents a lot of that, but I think that, they're going to miss out on Aaron Rodgers specifically, and I think that they're going to go the next route, and they're going to get Derek Carr for the New York Jets.
What about you, Isaiah? Where do you think Derek Carr goes?
I think he goes to the Commanders. I know the Commanders have been saying, "Oh yeah, we love Sam Howell," all of this stuff. Sam Howell looked okay in that one start, but You have Derek Carr available right now, veteran quarterback. He's proven, and Eric Bieniemy is the new offensive coordinator. You know, Eric Bieniemy desperately wants to lift up this Washington offense and shine, so he could be a head coach in next season or after next season. So, why not bring in a veteran quarterback so he can run your system, run it to perfection, score you a lot of points, and then get you a head coaching job in next offseason. So I think that Bieniemy wants a veteran quarterback. I know DC, they said they're talking all this stuff about Sam Howell. They have a team that, with that defense and McLaurin and Brian Robinson, they have a team that, can compete right now. All they're missing is a quarterback, and you're not going to trust your team or trust a guy in Sam Howell who's only made one start in his entire career. You're just not going to do that. So, and plus for Derek's sake, why not play for Eric Bieniemy? He's going to bring the Chiefs system there, which is very, very friendly to quarterbacks, and they put up a lot of numbers, and you can look extremely good in that offense. So I think it's a win-win for both sides. So I got Derek Carr going to Washington.
All right. Next up is Jimmy Garoppolo. I have Jimmy G going to the Las Vegas Raiders, and I don't think Josh McDaniels will guarantee him the starting job because I think the Raiders are going to go into the drawing board at quarterback and get a Will Levis, and I think Will Levis will be the starting quarterback in Las Vegas over Jimmy G. I think Jimmy G will be the backup to Will Levis, and I think that Jimmy Garoppolo could be a fit there. Or if the Raiders pass on Will Levis, I could see them just sticking with Jimmy Garoppolo for maybe 2 years, $58.5 million. I think that's a good deal for Jimmy Garoppolo. I say 2 years, $58.5 million. What about you, Isaiah?
You guys ready for this? This might be one of my hottest takes of the night. I think Jimmy Garoppolo goes to South Beach to reunite with Mike McDaniel and to replace Tua Tagovailoa because there's a lot of questions right now. Is Tua even going to play again? There's rumors swirling that he might call it a career because he suffered, like 3 concussions like this past season.
I think Tua's still going to be the starter there.
Hey, let's hear it out. Let's hear it out.
There's a lot of questions. And Mike McDaniel worked well with Jimmy Garoppolo in San Francisco. They have a relationship there. Garoppolo's very good in Shanahan's offense. That's where he's had the most success. It makes a lot of sense. If Tua does come back, well, then Jimmy G can just be your backup for a year and see what happens because, unfortunately, Tua's always getting hurt. So you do need that insurance policy to be set up. So I got Jimmy G going to South Beach to be a Miami Dolphin.
What about you, Ben? Where do you have Jimmy Garoppolo going to?
You guys want to hear this one?
Yeah,
I got Jimmy G going down south to play in Tampa Bay with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think personally that the Buccaneers offense still has a lot of pieces there with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and their offense is still in a win now type of phase. And I think personally, there's been a lot of speculation potentially of a guy like Mike Evans moving on because you just don't know what that quarterback situation is. I don't think personally that the Buccaneers want to go in the draft. I think personally, I understand that, you guys like Kyle Trask, but I think that Jimmy G could be in a situation where he can compete with a guy like Kyle Trask. And I wouldn't be surprised about Jimmy G being, kind of following the story of, Tom Brady retiring and, maybe Brady and Jimmy G could potentially talk about, Brady could talk about his Tampa experience. I think that would be a really fun fit there. So I got Jimmy G going the Buccaneers. I had some potential picks from my Kicking It With Cruz picks from last week. These are a lot of changes. I have this change here. I think Jimmy G is going to go to the Buccaneers.
All right. Next up, we will talk about Baker Mayfield, who will be our last subject here for quarterback before we move on to running backs here. I think Baker Mayfield is going to remain a Ram, and I think he'll be an insurance policy for Matthew Stafford. Isaiah, do you think Baker Mayfield stays in L.A.?
This is going to be very tough because I think Baker's stock, even though he played well down the stretch against the Rams, his stock is not that high right now. So for me, I'm going to say yes. I think he returns to the Rams as an insurance policy because Matthew Stafford's dealing with a neck injury, and there's also serious questions if he can continue his football career because those neck injuries are not a joke. And when you have a neck injury, there's a good chance, not a great chance, but a good chance that you may never play again. So if Stafford calls it a career and he can't play because he's not cleared, then you have Baker, who's a serviceable quarterback who can get you a few wins and help stabilize that team. So yeah, I got him staying with the Rams.
What about you, Ben? Where do you have Baker Mayfield going to?
Well, before I get into Baker Mayfield, because I know you guys have the running backs, I actually have some hot takes this offseason about some quarterbacks. I think Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert will both have contract extensions this offseason. I think that they definitely will have the paydays for that. Baker Mayfield, I think, will remain a Ram because of Matthew Stafford's injury past. I think he's a decent insurance policy. And so I think that Sean McVay and Baker really view each other. Another person to watch out for is Ryan Tannehill, and I think he's going to get cut from the Tennessee Titans. And I have him going to the Washington Commanders to be alongside Sam Howell.
That's a good one right there, Ben. So anyways, here we go to our running backs here now. I think the running back we should talk about is Miles Sanders. I think Miles Sanders, I kind of like this right here. I'm looking at Sports Snod when they predicted free agents. I don't think he'll be a Philadelphia Eagle. I think Miles Sanders will be a Buffalo Bill because I really think the Bills need a guy that can run the football, commit to the run, and I'll tell you, Isaiah, Miles Sanders would be a good fit in Buffalo. I think the Eagles will go in a different direction. I think they draft Jahmyr Gibbs with one of their picks, first-round picks, and then they also utilize Gainwell and Scott.
For me, I'm actually going to say that Miles Sanders, in my opinion, is going to be an Arizona Cardinal. You talk about Arizona. Kyler's going to not play for the first half of the season, most likely. So they're going to have to, rely on the running game. And they have a lot of cap space. They are 12th in the NFL when it comes to the most cap space this offseason. The Arizona Cardinals can have $13 million, or they have $13 million in cap space. They can have more, after they cut a few players. And Jonathan Gannon, he worked with Jonathan Gannon in Philly. He, knows that Philly offense. I think it makes a lot of sense. The Cardinals, they have James Conner, but he's getting up there in age. Miles Sanders is a much, much younger back. So I got him going to stay with the Birds, but be a red bird instead of a green bird.
That's a good one right there. But Devin Singletary, I don't think he's going to be a Bill next year. I have him going to the Arizona Cardinals too. I think the Cardinals are going to have to trust him in the running game. But we're going to see if Kyler Murray can come back. Would I rule him out in week 1? Not necessarily. I do think that if it's going to depend on his recovery process.
Well, Devin Singletary, when you look at Devin Singletary last year, he didn't really have that great of a year. He had 819 carries for only 5 touchdowns, and he was very, very inconsistent for the Buffalo Bills. So I don't think he's going to be one of the top backs top paid backs in this free agency class in what is a really, really stacked free agency class of running backs. For me, I got Devin Singletary I actually got him going. I got him taking a 1-year deal to play with the Vikings. I think that Minnesota, they don't need a running back. They have Dalvin Cook. Madison's there as well. Although I'm not sure. I think Madison's actually a free agent too. So that might be some cause for concern. But Devin Singletary can just slide in there with Minnesota with that great offensive line. Kirk Cousins there doesn't have to do too much. He can go there, get a prove it deal, bring his value back up, ball out in Minnesota, maybe go to a conference championship next season, and then after that, get that big contract. So I got him going to Minnesota.
Next up, we will talk about wide receivers. So Juju Smith-Schuster is going to headline this very thin wide receiver market here. I think Juju Smith-Schuster will stay in Kansas City.
I don't. I think that Juju last season, he wasn't that great. Only 3 touchdowns, but 933 yards receiving. I think he's going to have another 1-year deal again. I think he's kind of on that same track like Odell Beckham Jr. And Loro, get ready for this. I think Juju Smith-Schuster becomes a San Francisco 49er. The Niners had interest in him last offseason. They couldn't get him. Juju wants to win. And, if Kyle Shanahan can get him, kind of cheap on a 1-year deal, I think he'll take it next with him and Debo and Ayuk. That's going to be a very scary threat. And Juju can be that guy that, him as a 3, that would be amazing for the Niners because he won't get that much attention on him. That means he can ball out and improve his value as well. So I got him going to the Niners.
I think that this is a very thin wide receiver group in free agency. I don't think we'll waste our time talking about that. Let's go to tight ends. I'm going to start with Mike Gesicki, who I think was a non-factor here. Sportsnot has him going to the New York Giants. But actually, I have Mike Gesicki going to one of the New York teams, Isaiah, and I have him staying in the division, in my division. And I have him signing with the New York Jets on a 3-year, $33.3 million contract. What are your thoughts, Isaiah? And we lost Isaiah here. We're going to go back to Ben's comments. Is that he has Juju staying in Kansas City. Mike Gesicki going to the Bengals. I could see that, but I kind of want him to stay in division. I kind of want him to play for the Jets. Compliment CJ Uzomah in the passing game, whoever the quarterback is. And I think that Mike Gesicki would be, because Mike Gesicki is a New Jersey native. And I think he'll play for one New York team, one of the two. So, anyways, but I think it's the Jets over the Giants. I think the Giants, they're going to see what they have in Daniel Bellinger. But I have another guy who I think is going to go to the Giants. Instead of Gesicki going to the, instead of Schultz going to the Bears, I have Dalton Schultz going to the New York Giants because I have Gesicki going to the Jets, and I think Schultz to the Giants. And I say that because I think that Schultz can complement Daniel Bellinger in the passing game, and whoever the quarterback is, if it's Daniel Jones, I think Schultz would be a great fit for that ball club. And then I have Hayden Hurst. I think he stays in Cincinnati. I think he was a great fit there for Burrow, and I think that it would be great for him there. And then I also think Robert Tonyan, I think he stays in Green Bay. And then we go to our offensive lineman. I think Mike McGlinchey, he leaves the Niners. And I do think he signs with, I could see this, the New York Jets on a 3-year deal, $42 million. I could see it being 3 years, $40 million. And I think that, and I say that because McGlinchey, he could be a reclamation project. And I think he knows Robert Saleh, and he knows what his philosophies and expectations are. And then I have Jason Kelce. I think he stays in Philly for another 1-year, $14 million deal. And then for defensive linemen here, I got a hot one right here. Yannick Ngakoue. He's a Colt last year. And then we have Isaiah coming back here. So, Isaiah, since you just left us here, we're going to go back to the tight end free agent market. I have Mike Gesicki going to the Jets and pairing with CJ Uzomah and potentially pairing with Aaron Rodgers.
I actually got to change my mind on that. I think Gesicki does leave the Dolphins because I feel like his time in Miami is, has gone, off it or gone the course of time. I actually think that Mike Gesicki will be a Chicago Bear. I think that they need to give Justin Fields, more weapons. They need to surround him with weapons. They have a lot of cap space. He's not going to get like a lot of money, but still, you add a tight end there who's a really good pass catcher, a really good blocker as well. I think that makes a lot of sense. So I got Mike Gesicki going to the Chicago Bears.
I have Dalton Schultz going to the Giants, and I think that he'll be a number one option at tight end. I like Daniel Bellinger, but Daniel Bellinger is more of a guy that can pass block, but also he had a great year catching the football too.
For Dalton Schultz, oh man.
And Ben says he has him going to Miami and joining Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah, for Dalton Schultz, oh man, it's really tough because there's a lot of really good tight ends in this year, not in the class, but there's not really a lot of teams that need tight ends this season. So for me, I'm actually gonna go surprise, Loro, Atlanta Falcons for Dalton Schultz. He'll be a Falcon. He'll pair next to Kyle Pitts. That way that the defense will not put a lot of attention on Pitts. That way Pitts can have more targets. He can have more catches. He doesn't have to be the focal point of the offense. And Atlanta needs to bolster their weaponry to give their next quarterback, whom I predicted will be Lamar Jackson. We know Lamar is very good throwing to tight ends. He loves to throw to tight ends. They're going to get two great tight ends, Pitts and Dalton Schultz, there for him to throw to. It makes a lot of sense. Give me Dalton Schultz to Atlanta.
And what about Robert Tonyan? I think he stays in Green Bay.
Stays in Green Bay with Jordan Love. I think that for him, he's going to be the fourth tight end or the fourth highest paid tight end in this class, which is not really saying much. But for Tonyan, I think that with the new quarterback in Jordan Love that I'm projecting will be the new quarterback there, he's going to have a lot more targets because for Tonyan and that system that they run in Green Bay, they like to run the football, and it's like that Kyle Shanahan offense where the tight ends are heavily involved. So Tonyan stays in Green Bay.
Next up, we'll talk about offensive linemen. Well, we'll talk about Hayden Hurst. I think Hayden Hurst will stay in Cincinnati.
I think he goes to Dallas because they lose Dalton Schultz. They need a replacement there, and they need a guy that is a good pass catcher for Dak Prescott to throw the football to. So give me Hayden Hurst in Big D.
Now we talk about offensive linemen. I predict Mike McGlinchey will go to the New York Jets, and he will reunite with Robert Saleh.
Mike McGlinchey will finally leave my 49ers and finally let me and every Niner fan out there be done with our hellish torture of watching Mike McGlinchey play. Mike McGlinchey will go to your Patriots, Loro. He will be a New England Patriot because the Patriots need to fix that offensive line. They need to give Mac Jones the best chance possible to succeed. And I think Belichick, he's got a lot of respect for Shanahan. He's got a lot of respect for the Niners. I think he'll poach a 49er and help bolster that offensive line.
If Mike McGlinchey's a Patriot, where will he be? Left tackle or right tackle?
Well, with the Niners, he was mostly a right tackle, and I think you're going to put him there because he's most comfortable in that right tackle position. You could put maybe Cole Strange at like left tackle, and then
Cole Strange is a guard, and I think that you got to draft a left tackle, which I would expect the Patriots to do.
Well, then I think that for the Patriots, then I think left tackle for McGlinchey is better because you don't want to have a rookie protecting Mac Jones' blind spot. Even though McGlinchey's not really that good, you want a veteran to protect Mac Jones' blind spot and the rookie can be the right tackle. That way, Mac Jones' blind spot gets protected by a veteran than a rookie.
What about Jason Kelce? I predict he stays in Philadelphia. I don't think he's going to go anywhere.
He's not going to go anywhere because he means dearly to Philly. Although, don't rule out the Chiefs. Do not rule out a reunion, not a reunion, but a partnership with his brother. So I could see that. He wants to win a ring. I know the Eagles just went to the Super Bowl, but Kansas City's Kansas City. And if the Eagles don't, want to pay him, then I think he'll go to the Chiefs.
Ooh, I wouldn't rule that out. I mean, having the Kelce bros play on the same team would be awesome. Kind of like how Devin and Jason McCourty both played on the same team, and I loved it. I didn't mind it at all.
Yeah, me either.
Well, this is a stacked defensive line group. I'm going to start with Yannick Ngakoue. He was a Colt last year. I think he's great. He's a great edge rusher, but I think the Bengals are going to extend Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. They're going to pay them a lot of money. But 4 years, $54 million, that's okay, I guess. I think that's cheap enough. Yannick Ngakoue to the Bengals. That's what I call.
I got Yannick Ngakoue going to the I got him going to the Bears. I think the Bears are going to pay him a lot of money. They need to improve that defense. Matt Eberflus is a defensive mastermind as a coach. And he needs to get talent there to improve that defense. And Ngakoue is one of the best defensive pass rushers there is. And, he is a guy that, wants to get one more paycheck. He's 27 years of age. He's bounced around quite a bit. He's got 9.5 sacks last season. He's a very productive pass rusher, and he's going to be the start of what the Bears think will be a good defense.
What about Marcus Davenport? He was a Saint last year. I think even though he goes to the Bears, I have Marcus Davenport going to the Denver Broncos to reunite with Sean Payton.
That'd be a really, really, really good get for the Denver Broncos if they do. That would add to an even better.
That's what I see when it comes to a reunions with former head coaches. Marcus Davenport played for Payton in New Orleans. I want to see him reunite with Sean Payton in Denver.
I think Marcus Davenport. I think he goes to Seattle. Seattle needs to improve their pass rush, their defense.
I know they do, but I want to see I want to see a Sean Payton reunion come to Denver on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah,
and having some of his former players in New Orleans join him.
Laurel, you're right. It could happen, but for me, I see him going to Seattle because Pete Carroll needs to improve that defense. That offense is good. The defense is the one they need a lot of help on, and you need to start by getting better on the defensive line. And Marcus Davenport, I think with him being in Seattle in that scheme, I think he's going to be unleashed in that scheme.
Which Saint defensive player in the Saints will reunite with Sean Payton? I think it's Davenport, but I'm also not ruling out Cam Jordan.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson. That's going to be the guy. The Denver Broncos have a monster. They have a lot of monsters on their defensive line. Their linebackers are good. Their one weakness is secondary. Pat Surtain is amazing. Simmons, he's great. But the other guys on that secondary is not good. They need to get another guy opposite of Pat Surtain. I think that they're going to get C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who was a Saint. He's going to go there to pair with Pat Surtain to create a hellish secondary.
Yeah, I'll hold that prediction a little bit where I think C.J. Gardner-Johnson goes to. So, anyways, here we'll go to linebackers. Jermaine Edmonds, who I think is an important piece to the Buffalo Bill defense. He's not going anywhere. I see him staying with Buffalo.
I agree. He's not going anywhere. In fact, I won't be shocked if he gets the franchise tag.
And then Lavonte David. I think Lavonte David leaves Tampa Bay. And I think that he goes to – I actually agree with this. I like this fit. The Chicago Bears.
I think Levante David, I agree. I think he leaves Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay just seems to be like they're rebuilding. I got him actually, Levante David. That's very tough because he's won a Super Bowl. He's gotten a lot of big time contracts already. He's a guy that, he's 33 years of age, so he wants to go to a team that that wants to win, that wants to win right now. He's a very impactful player. It's very tough. Man, it is very tough to see where he goes. You know what? I'm going to go with the bold prediction here. I think Levante David becomes a New York Jet because I think that the Jets, they need to win now. Their defense was great.
Well, they have C.J. Mosley at middle linebacker, but where do you put Levante David if he's a Jet?
You could put him opposite of C.J. Mosley. You could put him as another linebacker next to him, like the Niners do with Fred Warner and
they run a 3-4.
Well, I know they run a 3-4, but Robert Saleh likes to have 3 great linebackers there, or even 4 great linebackers there in the middle, like what we did in San Francisco with Warner and Greenlaw and Azeez Al-Shire as well. I think that is what he wants to create. And if you have Levante David there with C.J. Mosley, I think that would be a great combination at linebacker.
Next up, we will talk about our next player that we will talk about is we go to the defensive backs here. So actually, you stole my prediction. I agree with you, Isaiah, about C.J. Gardner-Johnson leaving Philadelphia. And I have him going to the Denver Broncos as well and reuniting with Sean Payton. So basically, I have two former Saints joining the Denver Broncos.
I agree. I got him going to the Denver Broncos. Denver's D-line is amazing. Their linebackers are really fast, really good. Their secondary is the one that is a weakness for them. They need to get a guy opposite of Pat Surtain and next to Justin Simmons, who's a monster at the safety position. Give me C.J. Gardner-Johnson to be that second corner opposite of Pat Surtain and to create hell for opposing teams' wide receivers and make Denver's defense even better than they are last season.
I think for a second year in a row, I think Jesse Bates gets the franchise tag from the Cincinnati Bengals, and I do think the Bengals would like to work out some sort of a long-term deal with him.
I actually think he leaves. I think that he actually goes to Seattle because Seattle needs to fix their defense. They have a lot of cap space right now. So I predict that they're going to be very aggressive in terms of going after defensive players. And their secondary was awful last season. It was awful. I know they have Diggs there, but you need to fix that secondary and that defensive line. And I think Seattle will get the job done with the additions. Laura, who did I have going to the I think I had Ngakoue. Yeah, Ngakoue going to Seattle. And I think Jesse Bates as well, because Jesse Bates is a tremendous safety. He wants a lot of money. Seattle is going to pay him that lot of money, give him that long-term deal that he wants for security reasons. So I got him going to the Sea Chickens.
And you talk about Jordan Poyer. I have a feeling if you talk about the Bills, before we talk about the Bills' outlook in that secondary, I have my prediction on the Bengals is that they're going to extend Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, and Jamar Chase. What do you think?
Burrow, Chase, yes, I think they will. All 3 players are very, very quintessential to their team. So it's a no-brainer for them to do so.
I think they get it done this offseason. I do think Chase is not going to go anywhere. I don't see Burrow going anywhere. I think what the Bengals need to do is try to trade one of their receivers so that they can have enough room to do that. So
I think Tyler Boyd or T. Higgins will be traded. I think one of those 2 will be traded because the Bengals have a luxury at the wide receiver position. They have Chase, they have Boyd, they have Higgins. You're
not going to pay all of them.
Yeah,
that's why I'm saying is that I expect the Bengals to pay Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow at the same time.
I think T. Higgins will be traded because out of the bunch, I feel like he's the more talented one, and he's the guy that's going to net you a lot of assets back in return. So hot take, I got T. Higgins traded.
Me too. You know where I have T. Higgins going to? Jacksonville to reunite with his college buddy Trevor Lawrence.
I think for me, I got him
I
going.
want to see that. I want to see that Clemson reunion in Jacksonville with Lawrence, Etienne, and Higgins.
That could happen. I like that fit. I do. I really do.
I have that vision with Higgins reuniting with his college buddy Trevor Lawrence.
Right. But I think for me, if I have to see where T. Higgins will go, man, that is tough.
So I do think Jamar Chase is going to get paid with Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, and you're still going to build that offense around those two guys.
Right there. That's my prediction.
Patriots?
T. Higgins to the Patriots.
Ooh, I would like that, honestly.
New England needs a difference maker. They really do. They need
him with my guy Mac, and you talk about him being a number one there. Tyler Boyd. If Higgins goes, then Boyd would probably stay in Cincy, but for less money.
So is Boyd really a free agent?
No.
He's not a free agent, right? He's not. Oh no, he's a free agent in 2024. So yeah, I think either Boyd or I think Higgins is most likely gonna be out the door in the offseason.
I think the Bengals will pay Burrow, Mixon, and Chase.
I do too.
And then you talk about Poyer. I think Jordan Poyer, Ben had him going to Denver. I have Jordan Poyer going somewhere else. I think the Bills are going to move in a younger direction at safety. I think he goes to. I'm gonna say it right here. I think Jordan Poyer stays in the division, but I have him going to. I have him going to the Miami Dolphins.
You ready for this hot take?
Yes.
I got him going to San Fran because
why?
Here's why. The Niners need a safety. Jimmy Ward's a free agent. They have other free agents. They have Hufanga there, but they need another safety opposite of Hufanga. And I think that Poyer, he's at that stage of his career where he wants to win. And he has made a lot of money in his career. I think that he's not going to take a cheap deal, but he's going to take like a mid-tier deal to go to a winning team. He's not going to take a lot of money to, beat on the Jets or the Jags or, the Bears to just lose. He wants to win. And he went to, they came close to the Super Bowl last season. They came close the year before. He wants to win. So I think he's going to join a winning team. The Niners need a safety. They don't have a lot of money to pay him, but I think he'll take a mid-tier deal just because he wants to win a championship, and he knows San Francisco has a great shot to do so out of the NFC.
Next up here, and when you talk about the Bills, I think that they're going to keep Micah Hyde to pair with DeMar Hamlin on the back end of that defense. My early hot take is that I think DeMar Hamlin is going to be comeback player of the year in 23.
That's a good one.
Because I know he's going to play football again. After that horrific cardiac arrest he suffered, I do think that you're going to see DeMar Hamlin make a big impact on the Buffalo Bills back end of the defense, and I do think that he's going to come back stronger than ever.
Hopefully, man. We're all definitely rooting for him for sure.
Next up is Patrick Peterson, who was on Steven's Vikings, but now the Vikings have gotten younger. But anyways, Isaiah, if you talk about the Vikings here, your thoughts on Brian Flores is, I really like this move for the Vikings. I think that Brian Flores is going to get them to play fast, play physical. He's going to get them to get faster on the secondary, and he's also going to, and you're going to get the best out of him.
I think it's a good move, but it's not going to be a good move if he doesn't have the pieces to do so. Their defensive line is a monster. Their linebackers are decent, but I feel like they should get younger at that position. But the secondary needs a lot of work. Their secondary was anchored by Patrick Peterson last year, and your secondary is not good if you're anchored by Patrick Peterson. No disrespect to Patrick Peterson whatsoever. He's a great player, but he's past his prime, and I expect that they're going to move on from him. I think Peterson, he wants to go to a winner as well. Look out for Kansas City. Look out for possibly the Eagles if they lose Gardner Johnson. San Francisco's another one because, they have a lot of injuries at the secondary position. Look out for all the teams that are in the hunt. Look out for them.
I think Patrick Peterson signs with, I say, the New York Giants.
I think Patrick Peterson will ultimately be a Philadelphia Eagle because he knows they have a great shot to win. I predict that they're going to lose C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and they're going to need another replacement corner. And Patrick Peterson, he's at that stage of his career where he wants to win. So I got him going to Philly.
Let's go to kickers. Robbie Gould. You know what I think? Do I think he retires, or does he play one more year to try to get a ring with the Niners? I think Robbie Gould will not retire.
So you got him going to the Niners?
Staying in San Fran for one more year. Because he still has the leg.
He does, but here's the thing. My sources in San Francisco is telling me that I think the Niners want to get younger at kicker. So I think that for me, I think the Niners are going to move off Robbie Gould, even though he's a very good kicker. He's a very, very dependable kicker. But I think that they're going to try to get a guy in the draft. And watch out for Moody, Jake Moody, the Michigan kicker, who had an outstanding season. He kicked a 59-yard field goal against Illinois. I mean, you never see kickers do that in college football. He's a very, very accurate kicker. He's one of the best kickers in all of college football. I think the Niners are going to try to get him. So I think that they're going to let Robbie Gould walk. As far as where I think Gould will go, sadly, I think Robbie Gould goes to New York with the Jets to pair with Robert Saleh, and I think the Jets move off of their current kicker.
Ooh, that might be a good fit for Robbie Gould to kind of help with their special teams and all that. But let's talk about Mason Crosby. I think he goes back to Green Bay. I don't think he leaves the Green Bay Packers. He's still a fan favorite there.
Yeah, he's a Green Bay legend. There's no way that he's going to leave. If he does leave, however, I think a lot of NFL teams will be lining up for his services.
And then Matt Prater. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's going to stay a Cardinal.
Yeah, he's going to stay a Cardinal for sure. Or, hey, if whomever team misses out on Jake Moody, the kicker from Michigan, who's a big-time prospect, I think that they're going to go after – actually, Laurel, I'm switching my pick. Robbie Gould will be a Dallas Cowboy. That's where he's going to go.
Brett Maher. Brett Maher. God, my gosh, Brett Maher. He's a guy that just can't be dependable.
Yeah, he's not dependable. And Robbie Gould's a very dependable kicker. So I think he goes there. Watch out for Dallas also in the Jake Moody mix as well.
Ben Kearse has a spicy hot take, which I doubt it will happen. He says, watch out for Stephon Diggs in trade talks. There's a little speculation that he might want to join his brother in Big D. I don't think he leaves, but this could look like a Tyreek Hill type of bombshell move. Him and CeeDee Lamb, imagine. If that happens, I don't think the Bills will lose a step because I think that Gabe Davis, it can be their number one guy. Gabe Davis is a stud, and the Bills could also look to the draft to find another receiver for Josh Allen. But I do think Stephon Diggs won't leave Buffalo.
I got him going to Dallas. I think that old Jerry is extremely, extremely desperate to try to win a ring.
Do you think that if Diggs leaves the Bills, you don't think it's going to affect Allen that much? Because Allen loves throwing to Gabriel Davis and Dawson Knox.
I think that if you had asked me a couple of years ago, I think it would affect him. But I think that Buffalo does need another number one because Gabriel Davis is a monster. Dawson Knox is great, but they do need another number one to take the attention off of Gabriel Davis. So I do think that it will hurt a little bit. But I think he'll go to Dallas because I think that watch out for the Jets too, because those two teams are extremely desperate. The Jets, if I predict that they're going to get Aaron Rodgers. If they do, they have to give him some weapons as well. So that makes a lot of sense.
Look, Aaron Rodgers already has weapons in New York. He's got Corey Davis. He's got G-Dub.
He does, but guess what? None of them are as good as Stephon Diggs.
No, you're not going to trade Garrett Wilson.
No, you're not trading Garrett Wilson. I'm not saying you trade Garrett Wilson at all. I'm saying you're going to get Stephon Diggs to pair him up with Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson on that offense because the Jets are desperate. They need to make the playoffs this year, and they're going to go all in. They're going to do what Billy Beane did in the 2014 trade deadline. That is go all in, put all your chips in, and try to win it. So I won't be shocked if the Jets do that because we all know the Jets always do stupid stuff as well. And Dallas is pretty much the same thing where Dallas, they need another number one. We saw how bad the absence of Amari Cooper hurt the Dallas Cowboys.
And then I'll tell you where I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to go. I think the Cardinals trade him, but I don't think his stock is going to be that high. I have him going to New England to reunite with Bill O'Brien.
I think that for DeAndre Hopkins, it's the two teams I mentioned, Dallas or the Jets. Those two teams are extremely desperate. Those two teams have big-time quarterbacks. They need to add another big-time receiver to help their quarterback. So
I'm not ruling out the Jets for D-Hop. I mean,
yeah,
Hopkins. I don't think the Jets trade for Diggs. I think that they might have to release Corey Davis. I don't know if that were to happen.
You do that easily.
Do the Jets release Corey Davis and they go in a different direction at receiver? Or do you try to keep Davis and you have Hopkins and Wilson as your number 2 and number 3?
Well, here's the thing. If the offers are Corey Davis, you have to release Corey Davis to get Stephon Diggs or get DeAndre Hopkins. Hell yeah, you do that any day of the week because DeAndre Hopkins and Stephon Diggs are like better than Corey Davis. No disrespect to Corey Davis. He's a good receiver, but he's not on the level of Stephon Diggs or DeAndre Hopkins. So if Aaron Rodgers asks for Stephon Diggs or DeAndre Hopkins, you give him that any day of the week.
Anyways, Isaiah, it's been a great show here. And Isaiah, Sports Weekly will be back next week. So want to get everybody that. We'll have a lot more NBA and MLB talk for you. So what is your final thoughts?
Well, before I go into my final thoughts, Laurel, I think we should answer this last question from our guy, Ben. And he says, what is both of yours spicy hot take for this offseason, at any position? I'll give you one right now. I'll give you one. I know we talked about the Niners earlier with Trey Lance and Brock Purdy, and I'm really high on both of them. But don't be shocked if Kyle Shanahan trades for Aaron Rodgers because I know that Aaron Rodgers,
he's not going to get traded to an NFC team. Aaron Rodgers is going to go to an AFC team.
Most likely he won't, but I'm not going to rule it out because the thing is the Packers have a lot of respect for Aaron Rodgers. And if he wants to go to San Francisco, you do it. And you do it because you have a lot of respect for him and you give him what he wants. You're not going to force him to play in like some terrible situation that he doesn't want to play at. So do not be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked whatsoever if that were to happen. Shanahan has been to the NFC Championship so many times. He knows he needs to get a big-time quarterback to elevate this team, and he needs to win soon for the 49ers. So I won't be shocked if that were to happen. Also, another spicy hot take. Well, I've already given you guys my spicy hot take of the offseason. Is that Stetson Bennett will be the Ravens starting quarterback in 2023, and Lamar Jackson will be out of Baltimore this offseason. So that's my hot take. Laurel, I don't know what's your hot take before I give my final thoughts.
My hot take is that I think T. Higgins is going to get traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I want this Clemson triplets in Jacksonville. That's going to make Doug Peterson's job and make life easier in Duval. I want to see Higgins with Zay Jones and Christian Kirk and lead that receiving core. I say that because I don't think the Jags are going to keep Marvin Jones.
No.
I want to see them get a bit younger at the receiver position, and I do think that Trent Baalke and Mike Brown will be on the phones talking about T. Higgins. And I know Trent Baalke was your boy in San Francisco, and I do think Trent Baalke has done a much better job in Jacksonville than he did in San Fran. I mean, a lot of people in Jacksonville, a lot of people hated Trent Baalke in Jacksonville at first, and I'm like, why do you hate that man? Like, why is Trent Baalke getting all this hate?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I felt like it was kind of warranted, but in the beginning, but like I'll give him credit where credit is due. He's done a much better job with the Jags.
He's a much better fit down in Duval County than up in the Bay because he scapegoated Jim Harbaugh, which I hated.
Well, and then before I give my final thoughts, I will give another hot take. It's not as spicy.
No, are you saying, Isaiah, the reason why you like the Jags is it because of your boy Trent Baalke being the general manager there?
No, I didn't like Baalke at all when he was with San Francisco. I wanted him out.
But you think he's done a good job in Jacksonville?
Yes, I will give him credit. I think he has.
But you do like your GM now and John Lynch.
Yeah, I do. So I do have a couple hot takes that will wrap up the show before I get to my final thoughts, and I hope Ben is listening. Number one, I think Ezekiel Elliott will be a 49er. I think that he's going to take –
He's going to have to lose some weight, man.
He's gonna get cut by the Cowboys because he has to take a pay cut, but it's not going to be the pay cut that he wants to take. He's going to get cut, and the Niners need that power back at the goal line. They have Elijah Mitchell there, but they always get hurt. Mitchell always gets hurt. McCaffrey's health is in question, so you need to get that running back depth a lot stronger than it is. And if you have Ezekiel Elliott there, why not give him like a 1-year cheap contract to be that bully back next to Mitchell and McCaffrey? So I got him going to San Francisco, and don't be shocked if Drew Lock ends up as a 49er as a backup quarterback. So I got those.
Drew Lock.
Not that big of a hot take, but still. But it's been a great show. Thank you to Ben for tuning in and hopping on. Thank you to Christy for hopping on as well. Thank you to all of our fans. Ishmael, great to see you again, buddy. It was a great show. Sports Weekly will be back next week. Can't wait to talk about the stuff that we have. Also, don't forget, Kicking It with Ben Curtis is coming your way sometime this week.
And I have to set up a brand for him on this StreamYard.
Yeah,
and you need to come up with the intro and outro for that, for Kicking It with Curse.
Yes, I do for sure. But it's been a great show. My final thoughts, it's not football related, it's some advice to Lonzo Ball, and that is you got to retire, buddy. I'm sorry to say it, but your knees are screwed. You can't even bend down and pick up your kid. How on earth are you supposed to run and cut on the basketball court? He's got shut down again. Just hang it up, man. It hurts me to say it, but he's got to hang it up. It's time for him to hang it up. And unfortunately, Loro, I don't know how you feel, but I don't see Lonzo Ball getting back on the basketball court ever again.
Me neither. It's the LaMelo Ball show, I'll have to say. But I do think Charlotte is still a young team, but I do think that they still have a lot of work to get done. And also, I can't wait to express my displeasure with the Hawks with why they scapegoated Nate McMillan.
Yeah, and well, Steve Clifford, I mean, I got some thoughts on him too. I don't think he's a really good fit in Charlotte.
Look,
Anyway.
I think he's a puppet to Mitch Kupchak
I agree. I think he is a puppet.
because he knew Mitch Kupchak with the Lakers, and
Well-
Mitch Kupchak wanted Steve Clifford to come back, and that was.
Go ahead.
And Mitch Kupchak pretty much loves Steve Clifford.
He does. Well, since we're also on the topic of basketball, and since we're not going to have a Sports Weekly this week, and most likely we probably won't talk about the Hawks firing McMillan, give us your thoughts on the whole thing, since this might be your only chance to get it out of the Hawks firing Nate McMillan.
I think it was a disgrace. I think he got scapegoated. Not really his fault though, but they had to blame somebody. The Hawks were in play-in contention. I was like, why do you fire that guy even if you're in play-in contention? That is stupid. I like Nate McMillan. I think he is a great coach, and I eventually would like to, and I eventually think that we have not seen the last of Nate McMillan as an NBA head coach. He will be an NBA head coach again.
2 words, Trae Young. This man has forced out so many coaches. You talk about Lloyd Pierce. He didn't get along with him. Now he didn't get along with Nate McMillan. I mean, Nate McMillan threatened to quit mid-season because of his toxic relationship with Trae Young. So, Laurel, I hate to say it, but I think Trae Young's turning into the next Kyrie Irving. He just can't get along with anybody. Which coach is going to want to step into Atlanta, work with Trae Young, and you know that Trae Young is so demanding, that he's a guy that is so demanding. He doesn't play defense. He's a very talented player, but which coach wants to get into that toxic mess?
I think that's a job that I don't think anybody wants, but, what I'm saying about Nate McMillan, I'm sure we will see him again as an NBA head coach, which I really think that he can be a great fit that can lead teams to a championship.
I agree. And I think that, this might also be a hot take before we go. I think that Boston was dumb to remove the interim tag off of Mazzulla, because I think they can get better options than Joe Mazzulla. You have McMillan there. Nick Nurse might be available this offseason if the Raptors fire him. There's other coaches there. I think that I like Mazzulla. I think he's a decent coach, but I think that Boston was dumb to put that interim tag away from him just quickly.
I think it was the right choice, because the players really like Joe Mazzulla in Boston.
I know they do, but I just felt let's say Nick Nurse comes available because the Raptors fire him,
and then the Nets extended Jacques Vaughn, and I really like how he's holding the Nets together. That's
a good move. I like that move for the Nets. He's a culture changer for sure.
And I do think without KD and Kyrie, it's not gonna affect the Nets mentally or anything like that. They still got a talented ball club.
They do. But I don't think they're gonna make the playoffs this year. I think they're building something back to where it was.
Yeah, because those super teams didn't work. But nope. I think Billy Donovan might get fired.
Yeah, that's
the end of the season.
Feel bad for him, because that team,
he's going to be the next scapegoat.
Me and you said this when we were doing our trade deadline predictions. Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan, you got to split them up. They can't work together. Both of those guys need the ball. It makes no sense. That's why the Bulls are struggling on offense. They should have traded DeMar DeRozan, or they should have traded Zach LaVine. They needed to split those two up, but they didn't. So I don't think the Bulls are going anywhere at all.
Russell Westbrook to the Clippers? I think he might be good for the Clippers.
We'll see how that happens. We'll see what happens with that. That's another thing that could also blow up as well.
Why would that blow up?
Because Paul George needs the ball. Kawhi needs the ball. Terrence Mann needs the ball. Westbrook needs the ball. You only have one basketball, so we'll see how that fit works.
Yeah, so anyways here, that's going to do it for Extra Point. I'm Lauro with Isaiah. We'll see you all next week. Have a good night, everyone.
chose me. I'm a champion, I need some trophies. I can drive the lane, I can shoot the three. I can run 100 yards, I can throw it deep. I ain't choose the gang chose me. I'm a champion, I need some trophies. I can drive the lane, I can shoot the three. I can run 100 yards, I can throw it deep.
I got what it take to be a champ. You know bars life, you should come